Believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of personalized investment advice, but are limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Encompass More Asset Management is registered as an investment advisor with the SEC and only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration with the SEC does not imply a certain level of skill or training.
GCES.
There you go, Galen Bargerstock, Clinton Smith with us this morning, GCES. We talk investments, we talk retirement savings with you. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Good morning, Indiana.
Morning. Good to have you both with us here this morning. I want to talk about general terms because people just don't understand what they mean.
Okay.
And even the basic things that we hear all the time. And, there are people out there that don't know what 401k means. What is a 401k? How do I get one? Do I need one? Those sorts of things. And obviously, Galen, that's a really big part of people's financial futures.
Yeah. I mean, 401k, all the different names for everything, essentially they're all IRAs, individual retirement plans. So for you to go into a 401k means that your employer provided you some sort of fund that you can put money into. Usually they're going to match a percentage. It's up to the employer, what the percentage is.
Mm-hmm. And people hear as well that, this year my employer says, here's what I'm able to contribute. Sometimes there's nothing. The employer says, I can't contribute anything to your 401k this year. And they think disaster has struck. Not necessarily true.
No, not necessarily. I think it really depends on the company's profitability every year, but I know right now we're setting up our own 401k. I mean, we've been around for 10 years. We're just now getting to it. So it's a lot harder for a smaller company to try to implement a 401k. But it's something that can definitely happen. And inside of it, we have options as the employer. At every year, we can either give a profit sharing where we decide, hey, we're going to give an extra $10,000 or whatever the number is into everyone's 401ks. And then that would be split evenly based off of how much everyone put in over the year based off of percentages. Mm-hmm. We also have the options to bonus it out. So there are a lot of different options inside of people's 401ks. And that's, again, why we say to sit down with people earlier rather than later, because you want to make sure that you're making the most out of that. Especially, for example, postal employees, they get a matching 5%. We recommend before you start buying life insurance, buying outside investments, or dabbling in the stock market and playing around with money, that you get that matching 5% because that's all free money. Mm-hmm. If you don't put in 5%, you're not going to get that 5%. So at the very minimum, if you have a 401k, the big thing to look for is what your matching percentage is and then keep that. Now, if a company's doing a matching percentage, that's the thing where they're going to get that matching money. Do you know what I mean? If they say we're going to match it, they can't then at the end of the year say we're going to take that away. That's more the profit sharing thing where maybe they just don't have the money because of expenses or stuff that year, or maybe it was just a bad year for the business. That's where employees could lose out.
Mm-hmm. All right. Galen, here's something else. And GCES can help us to understand this thing. And people come to you and they say, all right, Galen, I have had an IRA for 30 years.
Okay.
And every year I've made contributions to my IRA. I'm approaching retirement. What happens now?
Well, essentially, you're talking into like the stages of where you're funding it. So, yeah, you're funding it for many years. And it depends on what you're calling the IRA, whether it's something that you took out on your own on the outside, if that is your 401k. Well, if you're coming up to retirement, that's where I find the loss of income to figure out how much money you need to pull off from the IRA at retirement to actually make the same income you're making now. So it really comes into play. Do you have a pension on top of that? What's your Social Security? What's your spouse's income? And each household is completely different on how I would tell you to maybe not even spend your IRA, but how to give that to your children. Because a lot of people do want that as well. It just depends on the household needs on where you're going to spend it.
Yeah. Yeah, and as that retirement age approaches, and they think about, okay, I'm told I need to take a minimum amount out of my IRA in this year of my life.
Yes.
Whatever year that is.
Yeah, you're talking about RMDs. RMDs are now age 73. So you can tax defer your tax deferred qualified IRAs until you reach the age of 73. And then the IRS is going to make you take out a minimum percentage because essentially you diverted the taxes that long and now they want their cut.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as well, Clinton, there's the idea of a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, a Roth conversion IRA, which takes monies that you put into your traditional and convert over into a Roth, and that gets into people's heads and starts swimming around too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many differences between the Roth IRA, this IRA, that whenever you sit down with Galen, that's whenever he's going to look at the whole house as a whole. There's sometimes where, I mean, we even run into people where they're more concerned with leaving on money to their spouse or to their children, where it doesn't make sense for them to hold on to all their money. It would make sometimes more sense for them to buy a life insurance policy because those life insurance proceeds pay out tax-free. So if you're trying to leave $200,000 that you had in your 401k onto your children, that's all going to get taxed whenever it passes on to them. But if you bought a $200,000 life insurance policy, that's going to pass on tax-free. So it's really looking at the household, the spouse, and really what the people's goals are and what they want to do. And it's just sitting down with someone. I mean, a lot of people want to wait until the very end when they're right there ready to retire. But as you're approaching retirement, you want to start putting your funds in your 401k into less risky situations where you're not going to be losing any money right before retirement, and really start planning things out in advance.
Now, you were telling me before we went on the air this morning that there's a specific example you can give us of something along those lines, as well as what GCES can do then to help this situation.
This was a long time ago. We were having a pitcher at Somerset or somewhere like that, like 2007. Yeah. And we were having a seminar. It was literally at a Haas's right next to a postal station. And we had probably about 10 to 15 people there. The entire time there was this guy that sat in the back to protect his identity. We'll call him Perry. Perry sat in the back. He was civil service. He didn't put any money into his savings because civil service, they can literally like just live off the pension. They don't rely on the TSP so much, or a federal 401k. So we're sitting there the whole time. He has this big book that we help them fill out, their retirement book, whenever they're ready to retire. And he sat there the entire time, didn't care about what we had to say or anything. He was 63 years old, and he was paying for life insurance that he didn't know that he was paying for. He didn't know what the deduction was on his paycheck, and he was paying $329 biweekly for life insurance that as soon as he retired, he was going to cancel, and he didn't get to save any of that money. And that price jumped up whenever he turned 60. So we already knew that he was paying that money, $329 every 2 weeks for the last 3 years.
He was leaking money and he didn't even know it.
Had no clue. And then as soon as he retires, all that money disappears. He never gets any of it back because it was the federal employees group life insurance. So it was a group plan. As soon as he left that group, he didn't save anything. Had we met with him 3 years prior, he would have had over like $16,000 that he could have put into his retirement rather than just losing it and throwing it away because he didn't know what it was. Yeah. And that's when I realized, hey, we can actually do stuff like do this and like be successful and help people at the same time. And that was like a turning point for me, like right when we first started.
No, so Galen, Clinton just said, 3 years earlier. So that would have put the guy at 60 years of age.
Yeah.
You wouldn't mind if they came to you even earlier than 60.
Earlier. I mean, the best I can say is the earlier you get in and compare what you have to what you could have or what you need in the future, that's the best time. Clinton's talking about group life insurance in general. So group life insurance policies, usually employers, any employer, it's going to be great while you're younger. I don't bash them. They serve their purpose. But you're paying for a rate based on everybody's health conditions, not your own. So when you're younger, if you pick it up when you're younger and healthier, you can own that policy instead of rent that policy all through the years. My personal danger zone is probably between about 50 to 55. That's usually when any outside company in the nation is going to be able to beat the plan that you're actually in. And if you correct the life insurance issue, that's going to also help you with your savings and your 401ks, because you can also put money that you're spending inappropriate in the life insurance and put it into the investments.
There are a lot of people here this morning that are listening to all of this, and
Yep.
they're saying, these guys know what they're doing. I need to get in to see them because it's beyond me. It's not in the realm of what not intellectually, but experientially. Yeah. I have experience with, therefore I can do this or I can do that. I can think this through. You've already done that thinking.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about today, the life insurance, like Clint said, it is like our aha moment. Like, wow, like if you correct this one thing, your entire retirement could change course. And we really are helping people maximize what they can do. So that's kind of where I fell in love with the job.
Yeah. Yeah, Clinton, this is, it's probably pretty exciting news to some folks, but it's probably still a little scary.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid to actually take that jump. But honestly, in an hour and a half appointment, it might even only take an hour, depending on how many questions you have. But in an hour and a half, you can get back on track and get things fixed. And then, we're smart enough now that we know that we checked in now. Here's the next time we're going to have to check in with you. Mm-hmm. We put it in the computer. It comes up. We call. We set another appointment once we get there. But once you get started on the track and you become a client, we're going to take you the whole way to retirement and then beyond.
Yeah.
It was a weird moment once we were in the business for a few years and we started to see people start to pass away. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And we're there through that whole process. Mm-hmm. So once you're a client, you're there until we start working with your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And obviously there are people who will say, well, yeah, but that hour to hour and a half you're talking about, I won't know what questions to ask. You'll guide them through that too.
Yeah. Nobody knows what questions to ask. It kind of naturally comes when we have the conversation about, pretty much what do you want to accomplish out of everything you've done? How do you want to leave it on? Mm-hmm. And, those important questions are going to come up during that because we're talking about, important life decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's automatic.
All right. So somebody who is their interest is now piqued. They have heard the first two segments that we did with you. Now here's today's segment, and finally they're convinced. I need to get in touch with these guys and get rolling on this. What should they do?
First thing would be give our office a call, 724-915-0000. You can stop in at our office anytime from 9 to 5 on Philadelphia Street. We're at 1780 Philadelphia Street. You can't miss it. There's signs, like literally 3 signs for our building. Just come in and book an appointment and go from there.
You're all set up to go.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for the visit this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. 825 CBS Sports next. And then Jake in the newsroom.
This is Boomer Esiason with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by Weather Guard Truck Boxes. If it's a job worth doing, it's a job worth Weather Guard. My Athlete of the Weekend award goes to Cincinnati